District 76 Board of Education regular meeting, September 24th, 2013 to order. Please stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome our guest and roll call, please. Linda Bailey. Here. Pam Greiner. Here. Brenda Cable. Here. Val Reagan. Absent. Julie True.
Here.
Becca Kern. Here. Judy Strong. Present. All right. We're starting with our public hearing
Call
on
to
our
order the public hearing,
budget.
2014 budget. And this is our public hearing on the budget itself. So, last month we put together and presented the budget, the proposed budget, the tentative budget, and between then and now, we have made some revisions to that budget. So I'd just like to go through them so that we're all on the same page and know where we're going. So in the education fund, we have a revision to the revenue section, which is in the education fund special programs. This is through the diligent work of Mr. Dokish and Ms. McCardle to get the United Way grant funds. As you know, we've talked about that a couple months, and it came in after our board meeting, and we received $37,500. So that that little revision we have put into the budget, since we do have an exact amount now. So that is a good thing. More revenue is always good. But we go to the expense. In the education fund, we've made a number of revisions. The first one is Section 5, Title salaries, Title I salaries, after school tutoring to increase by $7,500. Now what happens is in the Title I grant, we have a grant and we have a total amount. Then there are line items within the federal grant that we have to put in what we estimate or how we're going to use that money and how much in each little line item box. We move some money around, and this is just a change to move some money from one line item to another. This is more appropriate. We're adding this to give identified students after-school interventions and academic assistance to enhance student potential for success. All right. Once I get through all the Title I revisions, I'll kind of talk about how this is working out and why I did what I was doing. Okay. So if we change and we have salary for after-school tutoring, we have to pay TRS and THIS to the teachers because they're certified. The problem is that this is at the federal level, and TRS at the federal level is 38% of their salary. Luckily, this is just after-school tutoring, so it's not so bad, but it is a lot of money for benefits. And that's all it is. It's going to pay the benefits of those associated and required for the after-school tutoring. All right. General Purchase Services. SES stands for Supplemental Educational Services. This change moves money from one line item to a more appropriate line item, and it assumes the responsibility for the cost of the Title I Supplemental Education Services we are required to provide to identified students. So out of that Title I grant that we receive, we have to set aside a certain percentage, and it's 20%. We have to set aside 20% of our grant to pay for supplemental educational services. All right, now, what I've done is in the old budget, in the first budget that I presented, we had this as a line item of $30,000. And Ms. Creve asked a question about that, why, what is this? We're required, this $30,900 is a requirement that we have to set aside for these supplemental services. All right, what we've done is I went back and I looked at the set-aside issues, because set-asides and certain line items inside the federal grants are more restricted than others. All right, so at the end of the year, those unrestricted, not unrestricted, but those funds that don't have as many restrictions on them, we can take that money, if we didn't use it, and amend the budget and use that money in other places. All right, so we can distribute it, redistribute it toward the end of the year as we see how much we have used and how much we need, and maybe there's a surplus in one line item. Well, if there is, we have moved it around. You just amend the you amend the grant, not the budget. So because we're required to have this set aside money, $30,900, if we left it in this specific line item, it is it's frozen. We can't move that around and be able to recapture it at the end of the year. Well, actually, that's not true. It's not moving around. We're not able to recapture it in the next year. If there's monies that are left over, we can, if they're in certain categories, we can recapture them, and they're brought into the budget as a rollover amount. Well, the set aside for supplemental education services, you don't have that rollover capability. So we took that $30,000, $29,000, moved it out of that line item and redistributed it into these other items, these other line items that we talked about. In doing that, that left us at $1,000 in the SES line item. We're required to spend $30,900, or have that money. We're not required to spend it. We're required to have that money available for supplemental educational services. These are specific in that these are own services we cannot provide. It is services that allow the parents to basically go onto the internet and purchase, with our money, purchase educational services through these approved vendors, approved by the State Board of Education. Those are the supplemental educational service providers. There's a big list. There's about, Ms. Picardo, 92 of these vendors. Okay? We have to provide a list to the parents who are identified students, those that qualify for free and reduced lunch. We have to provide that list to those parents, and they get to choose. Now, history shows that a lot of times a lot of schools don't use much of this money. All right, parents aren't accessing the supplemental educational support services. It is another layer outside of the school day. All right, so it is extra, it's supplemental. So what I've done is taken that money, $29,000, and moved it into other line items in the grant. Because if we leave it there and we don't use it, we don't use all $30,900, we don't use it, parents, then it's lost at the end of the year and we can't recapture it. But if it is distributed in these other less restrictive line items, we are able to recapture it in the following year as a rollover if we haven't adjusted the grant and moved it around. So there are certain line items that are more restrictive than others, and this is a federal grant, so they have very tight restrictions. But this is a way for us to use and maximize the grant monies to the best of the ability within the federal guidelines. Right? That still means we have to have available $30,900 for supplemental educational services. The grant allows us to use local dollars to pay for that. All right? Last year, you didn't have, and you had under $1,000 worth of supplemental educational services that were accessed by parents. So, seeing that that's the case, then I took $1,000, moved the other money around, and basically betting the farm that we don't spend more than that this year. Okay? If we do, or if parents access more than $1,000 worth, we will use local dollars, the education fund, to pay for that supplemental service. We get it back because we're moving that $30,000 around inside the grant and different line items. So it is a federal shell game, but this is the best way to be able to use all of our grant dollars, or if we don't use them, to recapture them in the following year with rollover. That's the short explanation, if you can believe that. Okay? So that's where that $29,000 is coming from. General purchase services.
So did we lose the money from last year because we didn't do it this way?
You didn't spend it. You didn't spend it.
So we didn't get it.
You did not put in there the required 20% number. Okay? You didn't put it in there. So it wasn't inside the grant. You didn't lose anything because it wasn't really, it wasn't used, because it wasn't put in the grant. Okay? So, but the grant, we lost money, we lost about $25,000 off of our grant anyway, so it's less than it was last year. And to be able to maximize the dollars and the use of these dollars within the federal guidelines, then I can make copies of all this for you and give it all to you, and you can get the long explanation if you'd like, but it's just a way to maximize our potential dollars through the grant. And but we have to be able to show the federal government that we have set aside $30,900 for supplemental educational services. So to do that, we have a line item in our budget for general purchase services within that for supplemental educational services of $29,000. We have the other money inside the grant so that we have an audit trail to show that if we were to have to expend that amount of money, we do have it earmarked for set aside supplemental services. That's why it's a new line item at $29,000. Okay. The expense, general purchase services here, the United Way grant, this is an in and out. This just reflects the expenditure of United Way grant funds. Since we got it in one hand, we're spending it out the other hand, and so there's just that addition in there. So that kind of is a wash. It's an in and out. Instructional equipment. All right, this increase is going to be used to purchase required electronic devices used for the new Illinois State Board of Education mandated student assessment, interventions, and focused classroom instruction at the kindergarten level. This is coming, and it's coming soon. It's also, this requirement is going to be continued as all the grade levels as the state board rolls out these new assessments. But we also, this next year, this year, right, for the alternate assessments is this year on the computer, isn't that right?
No, next year.
It is next school year. We have to have We have to have the technology capability now to administer all of the state testing. As it comes out, all of the state testing is going to be done on the computer. All right? And so we're constantly getting these requirement notices, and make sure that you have this and you got to have that. So I send this to Mr. Wendelin and say, you know, what are we going to need? What's going on with this? Do we have what we need? Mr. Wendelin would like the board to authorize, you know, about $650,000 worth of upgrades.
Okay, good.
I'd like to have $649,000 to give him, but we don't have it. So, you know, this is a modest increase because right now we have been authorized. I don't know if authorized is the right term, but we've been identified to do some beta testing at the kindergarten level for these new assessments. And essentially, it is assessments. You know, it's real time. The teachers are doing it, you know, as the kids are learning, and we're doing these assessments. So they need to have the technology capability to do these things. Okay? The situation is, even though I put some money in the budget here, I don't know that we have the technical capabilities to do it at that end of the building. So I'm working with Mr. Wendelin to try to figure out how we can get, because this needs to be Wi-Fi. This needs to be the teachers moving around to the kids as they're learning. We do not have Wi-Fi at the end of that building. No, it stops at our office. So there's nothing down there. I'm trying to figure it out. And so I put some money in there so that we could at least, if we can get the Wi-Fi stuff figured out, we can at least purchase the hardware for the classroom teachers and the reading interventionists so that they have the technology and the devices that they need to do their job assessing these kids and teaching them. So it's a $2,500 increase. And tech equipment, same thing. There's the $5,000, which is just a different line item. This going to the technology equipment. See, the infrastructure at LaSalle building must be updated. It doesn't address all of our technology issues, so we're going to prioritize, you know. I wish I had better news for that. But these things just came out after the tentative budget was presented to the board. So here's another one of the Title I grant, just moving the money around. Title I, general purchase services, $5,000 for supplemental education services. We're just moving that $29,000 around. Same thing here, assessment testing, Title I, 17.9. These funds are going to be used to purchase computer software programs for our RTI, our interventions, our student assessments. We purchase a number of these type of software programs, and last year they were paid, they weren't paid out of, well, some of it was paid out of this fund, some of it was not. This is where we decided to put the bulk, or a big chunk of that $29,000 was here, because there's a lot of freedom within this category in the federal Title I grant. So it's going to be, you know, to pay for the software that we have now, which comes up to about $28,000 anyway. So there's not a lot of extra here. That's where our services that we purchase are at right now. And just so you don't think I'm just throwing money at the whole issue, I made the principals give me real numbers, because a lot of these purchase services for the computers are based upon either numbers of computers, number of students, number of seats, number of licenses, like that. And so I tried to get it as narrow and as pinpointed as possible, so that we're only purchasing what we really need. And you know, so I was able to cut down some of those numbers, but there's still more. Okay, speech services, $15,000. First 5 weeks of school, we had about 20 new students who arrived with speech services identified in IEPs, and those that have been identified or tested and screened. So the problem was that because our numbers are so high in the speech and language area, the number of therapy hours that we needed increased, which means that we had to add another 0.5 hours of therapy by the therapists, and we have 0.5 therapy from the assistant. Now, I've talked to Ms. Shuska regarding this, and she is trying to talk her therapy assistant into increasing her time here at LaSalle School. She hasn't gotten back to me yet, so that $15,000 is just it's what it is, it's an estimate. But next year, we cannot use therapy assistants at all, so this service is just going to increase again. So it's something that we'll need to explore and what kind of direction we want to take next year. So, we get to the education fund. Total education revenue increases $37,500. Total education fund expense increase $89,788. I didn't want to stop at each line, but if you have questions now on the ed fund, I can go back or however you want to discuss
I'm
it.
confused. On the assessment and testing, 31,000. Okay, you originally had 13,620. You're asking for an additional 17,000, making it a total of 31,000. But now you're saying that MAPS and Lexia and all those computer programs that we now have is 28,000. So did you take money from another line item? Because 13,000 wasn't enough to cover all that.
It's not a, it is, web-based academic benchmarking, but that is, I'm sorry, let me get the first one. The $17,000 increase comes from the moving the money around. Okay, the $28,000 that we were paying for those were being paid in different line items, yes. So we were taking $13,000 from Title I to pay for those computer programs that was in the tentative budget, and we use other local monies to make up the rest, okay? So, breaking out that $30,000 and redistributing it moved the $17,000 into that line item for the web-based academic benchmarks and interventions. All right, so it looks like there's a increase, but what we've done is move the money around, and I don't know that, well, I didn't take out the money on the other end of the other line item.
Okay, that's where I was confused.
Oh,
I
okay,
can see where
okay,
you're
no.
coming from.
Right, I didn't take that. Yeah, it's all still in there. It's all still in there because of the other things that, you know, are happening within the budget itself with all of the other increases. So it is, part of it is an increase, okay? Some of that is an increase, some of it is just the moving of the money, and I didn't take it out of the other line items where it came from last year. Those were just left in there.
That's fine.
All right. Did that make it a little better?
It does.
Okay.
Because that was not,
I mean, it's not real great news, Mrs. Bailey, and I understand that.
But,
Well, my first thing when I looked at this is $31,000 for testing. You know, it's a lot of money to
Yeah.
test the children.
well, it's testing and it is the interventions as well. Okay, so it is the teaching aspects, you know, yeah, well, it's not really materials, it's symphony math, it's the accelerated reader, it's software that the kids use in their reading and math. It's basically focused in reading and math. So we purchased those last year. I haven't increased anything. I've just moved that money around a little bit because, you know, we had $17,000 last year that we used out of the grant, okay, Title I grant, to pay for just part of what you bought last year.
Right, because this line item says 4,372, so that made me think
Yeah.
that we went from that amount up to 31.
Ah,
That's why I'm
gotcha.
confused.
Okay, okay.
All right. So we're not gonna have much left out of that 29,000 then?
No, no, it's gonna be used. But if I left it in the SES
Understood.
and parents did not access that money, then it's lost.
Right, okay, I got it.
So that's why
Thank
I'm
you.
moving around. Now, which means that maybe on the backside, the money that I didn't take out of the line items where you paid for Alexia and Ames Web, that may be there, okay?
Yeah, I got it.
So, you know, but I didn't want to take it away because we've got all this stuff coming from the State Board of Education saying we have to do these other things with our assessments.
But it was confusing when you said move, I was looking, where did it come
Oh,
from? That's-
yeah, okay, I can see that, I can see that. When you're in there, it makes sense to you when you're doing it, and I'll try to be clear
That's fine.
as things go on. Okay. Good evening, Ms. Reagan, thank you for. No, we understand, I understand. Okay, am I going wrong? Yep, okay. So, Operations and Maintenance Fund was the other fund that I have allocated some changes, some revisions, increases. Because in the past 2 months, we've had many repairs, service calls, and purchase of new equipment. This is an ongoing process. This is is just ongoing. Every day, I'm getting a handful of work orders for things that are broken. The faucets in both the bathrooms, push them down, they stick because they're supposed to be timed on a spring. Push them down, they're sticking, they're old, they don't work anymore, the water stays on. You know, the kids aren't pulling them up because it's kind of tough, even for myself, to pull that plunger back up so that the water in the sink stops running continuously, which is another problem. But not only that, but today the gym door and whether or not it's locking correctly, my layman's rudimentary maintenance skills looks like I'm hoping we don't have to replace the whole door. Maybe we can just replace the track at the bottom, but the spring that comes in and latches it at the bottom because people just push on it, it's now wore itself thin, and it doesn't go down all the way unless you pull it, give it a good yank and pull it tightly. Kids aren't going to be able to do it. I talked to Latchkey and their individuals to ask their parents to make sure that the door, they push it in because it just doesn't close by itself. It's ongoing in all the buildings. Equipment that is going to be in need of repair. I already know there was another report. There's some problems with the pilot light in the ovens here at the Sept. There is a hot water pump at Parkview that sounds like a meat grinder when it's going. There's something wrong. I've asked our maintenance people to look into them, tell me what's going on. you know, you call the service people. I've stopped the staff from just calling service, because you call them, they come in, they just look at it, they fix it, and they send you the bill, and nobody knows what they're doing. So put a stop to that and said, all right, let us look at it, see if we can figure out what the problem is. If there's an easy solution, we do that. If not, we get somebody in, come in, diagnose it, give me a quote on what it's going to cost and what we need, and then we'll see what we can do. But it's just ongoing. I don't intend to use these entire amounts, but I think it's prudent that we plan for these expenditures if necessary, rather than having to amend the budget later on the backside. So Parkview, I've added about $5,000 to that line item. You can see there some of the things that are there: broken stair tiles, stat bathroom, water fountains. We've replaced 2 or 3.
Water fountain?
Water fountain, 2. And we
Repaired another.
displaced, repaired another one. So yeah, there's lots going on. Also the desks, that's not operation and maintenance, but the desks that we needed to purchase for Parkview, the 20 or so new students that have come in. You know, it's just all of these things that are coming up, the unforeseen things that I'd just rather be prepared for it. LaSalle, about $10,000. The freezer, we got that taken care of, hopefully with an easy fix, but they still want to come back and test the compressor, but they have to defrost the whole thing. You know, blacktop of the area around the dumpsters, if you drive that, it's like going over hills and dales because of the big garbage trucks. Electrical corrections in the computer lab in the lower grade wing. We have all this technology, but we don't have enough electricity that gets down to the lower end. We have the capability in the bottom, in the basement. You have the panels, you have the power coming in, but they don't have the outlets down in the kindergarten rooms. So all of this stuff, you know, the computer, the projector, the whiteboard, everybody has their own plug-in, and you don't have enough electrical outlets in the rooms. It's nobody's fault, it's just the old building. So the buildings need to be, you know, upgraded to keep up. Homewood, $10,000. Every toilet tank in the whole place leaks. All right, they're so old. They're 5-gallon tanks, if you can imagine. All right, they're old 5-gallon tanks. They don't make them anymore, which means they don't make the right parts. So the parts that we use don't fit correctly, and so they're leaking just continually. We replaced a couple of them that were big culprits. We replaced those, and it shrunk the waste, but it still is leaking. The boiler, you guys know more about that than I do. Things are gonna, they need to be done. They have 6 or 8 windows that don't even have screens on them. They weren't able to open windows. Well, they opened them, but as you can imagine, if insects got to the top floor, they were coming in. So the mower and other equipment beyond its useful life expectancy, I've already kind of laid it out that our lawnmower is on its last leg. I just spent about $800 putting it back together because of the belts and some of the previous repairs that were done. Things weren't lining up right, and so there was some damage and some things that had to be taken care of. I only take care of what has to be to make it usable. But that's the way it's been for a while, and they're past their useful life. So a total increase on maintenance, operation and maintenance fund is about a $30,000 increase there. So we have some revenues. we have some expenses. The proposed budget revenues are $6,337,720. Proposed budget expenses now sit at $6.944 million, giving us a deficit of $606,950 with district reserves of $5.911 million. The nice thing, board members, is that you're a school district that has money in the bank. Most school districts are looking at those kind of deficits and don't know where the money's going to come from. So they're doing tax anticipation warrants. They're spending money today that they'll get tomorrow. It's a tough life out there for school districts. And that's our bottom line. So, with all this thrown at you, these are the revisions to the tentative budget. They are there for your books. You can insert the pages in your binders. So you can go through and insert them so that you have the correct all the correct pages in your binder. It's bad, but it's not that bad. It's not good, but it could be worse. Those are the revisions to the budget. Questions from the audience? Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you want to do discussion from the board first?
Okay, yes, that'd be fine. Public hearing?
Is there any plan for next year to reduce it so we don't deficit spend this year?
With more and more mandates from the Illinois State Board of Education, with technology that is not sufficient to do the things that the state board is going to make us do, I don't know that you're ever going to see a zero balanced budget. I think those days are gone. All right, I'm just telling you like it is, like I see it. We can get rid of staff. We can not purchase technology. We can make do with the things that are breaking down and just repair them as they come. Yep. We could do that.
I was thinking like homework, it's costing us a lot. Is there any way that we could?
Those are discussions that we can have. Yes.
That's what I meant, is there
Yeah.
anything that?
Sure.
We're giving it for free, basically.
Okay. There are certain topics that we can discuss. Yes. And I will bring them to you, and we can study them and get you the information you want for discussing those topics. Yeah. But are you going to have a balanced budget again? I don't think so. I really don't think so.
Well, if we deficit spend like that,
Mhm.
it'll be like every other district in 3 or 4 years. And
Right.
then we're gonna have to make cuts, maybe not the ones we want.
No.
As far as these mandates go, I know we've seen in the past, they will do unfunded mandates. And when it gets right down to the bottom line, when you don't do it, there is funding available. Those people that jump on it right out of the bat, they end up paying. And then toward the end, when it's really mandated, they will cut loose with some grants or some funding, at least they have in the past.
We can wait till the last minute on things. Yep.
That's just been my experience
No.
that I've seen.
I understand.
Defibrillators,
Right,
comes to mind.
right.
Yeah, but we're not talking defibrillators, we're talking technology and RTI, and as a parent that has kids going through right now, I'm not saying we should wait on stuff like that. So,
Something important we have to decide on.
right, that's a lot of kids that'll be,
You've got to look at it both ways. said if
this
they
year.
could wait one more year and be funded, you know, it's just a decision you have to make.
Pray for the state.
Yeah, that has.
That'd be a big prayer.
You might live a lot.
Yeah, any questions as to the budget or those revisions that were discussed? The tentative budget is there. And it's being presented for adoption, and we have a resolution that the board needs to pass in order to adopt the budget.
Thank you for your clarity tonight.
Okay.
I believe for the rest of us, I speak that it is clear, except on a few issues that we have concern with. So, we're done with our discussion. Okay. Now we'll open it up for public comment. Welcome again. Okay.
Okay.
Seeing none, we need a motion to adopt the resolution.
I make a motion to adopt the resolution 13-05, adoption of fiscal year 2014 budget.
Discussion? Just had it, so I think we're online there. Can we move to roll call?
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
Pam Griner,
Aye.
Brenda Cagle,
Aye.
Val Reagan,
Abstain.
Julie Troop,
Aye.
Rebecca Kern, aye. Judy Strong.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay.
Next one moves us to the consent agenda.
Okay.
There was a notice for correction.
Sorry.
Oh, public participation for the regular meeting. Sorry, now that we've adjourned the public hearing.
So back
Comments
to-
from the audience.
I just wanted to thank everybody for helping us with the benefit. It was a great success, and actually we ran out of food, sorry for that. So, I mean, it was very well attended. We made about $7,000.
You did a great job for our children.
It was a fun experience too.
Yeah.
It was nice.
And she appreciated it. She cries. I tried not to talk to her too much. She cries every time I talk to her, so thanks for helping us.
Any other comments? Okay, moving on to the action items then. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
There is a correction to the minutes of the August 20th meeting. On the action items, motion to approve the consent agenda, the very first one, roll call 4 yea, 3 nay. And it was brought up that on the other motions, we have listed the board members' names who have abstained. So noted that, and we'll make the correction to these board minutes to add in, I believe, Griner, yes. Ms. Bailey, Ms. Reagan, Ms. Griner had voted nay. So we'll have those in parentheses there. And also, that I handed out to you was the Parkview Activity Fund report for June, July, and then August. You have August in your packet.
And I have a question. How can we go ahead and approve this without having a chance to do the things on this? How can we go ahead and approve the one that's in the packet since we've not had a chance to total any of this? It's the same thing we ran into before.
Okay.
I put
So-
Caruso if we.
Looking at it at the meeting, you want to have time to study it?
Well,
Is that-
because I don't know if we did any balances correct on this or anything else. I don't have
Okay.
in previous months.
We could leave this one out and then discuss it next month and go ahead and approve the rest. Maybe Parky's out?
It probably comes out.
Yeah, if we could, we can leave Parkview School out, as Ms. Reagan said, and just approve LaSalle School, and then bring Parkview back next month with all the months together. Willing to do that.
Should we make a motion to table Parky's in here?
You can do it any way you want. Yeah, that's fine. Or we can pull the activity funds out of the consent agenda and make a separate motion, however you would like to do that.
How about if we just amend that we're pulling Parkview school activity fund report out? Can I have a motion on that, Mrs. Herron?
Yeah, I think that's agreeable, isn't it?
Sure. I make, amend the motion to remove Parkview's activity fund report from the consent agenda.
I second.
Roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry, there are others on the consent agenda. Any other comments?
Mr. Aldridge, were there any other questions about the bills than what I sent you? Was I the only one that questioned any of the bills?
No,
Mrs.
no.
Bailey?
Ms. Bailey did send an email.
I actually had a question and I didn't get a chance to email you, I apologize.
Okay.
I have to find it. Sorry. It was,
I think we're just gonna do away with the consent agenda, and since we have questions, it just seems to confuse in the process, I think. We'll just streamline it and make it just a motion for approving the minutes, approving the payments list, treasurer's report, activity reports. We'll just go back to that. That'll make it less confusing as to having a consent agenda and then pulling things out. So.
No, it's not gonna be.
I've worked for the last 4 nights, so I haven't had a chance.
No,
to tell you.
we've had problems with this.
Every month. That's
Yeah,
true.
so,
I can't find it, it's fine. It's fine, don't worry about it.
Please, when you find it again, Ms. Troop, just please send me an email and we'll answer all the questions.
I'm sure it was legitimate,
Sure.
not worried about it.
I did email Mr. Aldridge today and asked a couple questions. I noticed there was a new vendor, Brunk Stationaries, so I just wanted to know if that was a new vendor we had added. And I questioned the Whitmer Interiors.
That's what I was gonna question. So,
You want me to give your answer, or you
Oh,
want me to give your answer?
okay. It doesn't matter. I did email, I sent that email to every board member.
I realize that,
But-
I've worked for the last 4
Yeah.
nights, so.
Check your macro because I did not get it.
It was late.
It was late this afternoon.
I check email constantly. I didn't get it.
The frustration is not at you, Ms. Grant, the frustration is that at the technology, that this has been an ongoing problem. I thought we had it fixed, and
Because I believe I got everything else you sent, as far as I know.
Might not know.
Oh, yeah, that's the point.
Anyways, I guess an office chair for Mr. Aldridge, Judah. Gotcha.
yes.
And I did question, it's okay, I say Mrs. Williamson's
Yes, Ms. Williamson?
Okay.
Per,
That was in the budget, but it came from the accounts payable that made me remember, and I wanted to know where it was at in the
Yeah.
budget, if you wanna.
yeah. The purchase services under the education fund in the budget that you just adopted had a $3,000 line item limit. Mrs. Williamson, who previously, the board approved purchasing her services, the amount of hours that were allowed from the Board of Education would total about $12,000 rather than the $3,000 that's in that line item. So if we were to go over the $3,000, we would need to use, in a different line item, we would assign that to another appropriate line item. I don't anticipate it going that high. Some of the bills that are being paid here were ones that Ms. Williamson didn't get in time for processing to get to the board. So there's, some of that was from last year, prior to June 30th, yeah.
I just have
Oh, yeah.
And I
No
did
problem.
ask about the moving fees, because I wasn't here when Mr. Aldridge was hired, so it is in the contract.
And everybody got that email, right? Everybody got that one?
Okay.
Okay.
Everybody gets mine, but I don't pay everybody else's.
Any more comments or discussion? No? All right. Having none, let's go on to roll call, please.
Linda Bailey?
I'm gonna vote no because I have a problem with that one check. Wait. I vote no on that.
Griner?
No,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mrs. Griner, I shouldn't have just said your last name.
it's okay.
Brenda Cagle?
Yes.
Belle Regan?
Yes.
Julie Troop?
Aye.
Rebecca Kern, aye. Judy Strong?
Yes.
Mission carried.
Thank you. Going on to our motion on the business associate agreement. Make a motion, please.
I have a question, really quick. Do we have to make a motion to table the parking activity fund, or just because we pulled it, it'll just come back?
It'll just come back.
Okay,
Yeah, I made the notation.
okay.
Yes, the business associate agreement, there are two of them, so I'm just gonna discuss them as one. But there are two separate agreements. One is with Crossroads Insurance, one is with Mutual Medical Insurance Plans. Those are the two agencies that we use. Crossroads is the insurance, Mutual Medical is the third-party administrator of the health plan. Business associate agreements are necessary due to the HIPAA laws and regulations. There were some changes made to the regulations that govern the electronic transfer of protected health information. So with all of that, you know, the Health Information Technology for Economy and Clinical Health Act provides that third-party business associates must have these agreements stating that they will comply with the federal law on our behalf, because we are transmitting protected health information from our employees to these individuals. So they're being held by entering into these agreements, they're being bound by the federal law to comply. And there are heavy, stiff fines and penalties if they do not. Being a self-insured entity, we are covered by the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So,
Thank you. Having said that, we need a motion, please, for F2.
I make a motion to approve the business associate agreement with Crossroads Insurance.
I second it.
Discussion?
Pretty straightforward.
All right.
Aye.
Rebecca Kern, aye. Judy Strong.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Going on to F3, motion please.
Make a motion to approve the business associate agreement with Mutual Medical Plans, Inc.
I second.
Discussion, we probably covered that on the last one.
Yeah, they're the same.
Right?
Yeah, they're almost the same.
Okay, roll call please.
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
Pam Griner, Brenda Cagle, Val Reagan, Julie True,
Aye.
Rebecca Kern, aye. Judy Strong.
Yes.
Motion carried.
F4, motion please.
I make a motion to approve a one-year agreement with Thompson Electronics regarding the fire alarm inspections.
I second.
Yes, this is an agreement with Thompson, who is the company that we have agreements with LaSalle, Parkview, Homewood. Litchfield building was the one that was coming up there. They were covered by a different alarm or fire inspection alarm vendor. People who put it in, that agreement is run and will expire. So I did some investigation, compared their costs to, which is a fine and reputable company, but I did some comparisons and costs, and it seemed that Thompson was our best vendor for the money, and is now covering all of our buildings.
So do we have an amount on this?
Sure, $1,377 per year.
So this was a little bit.
It wasn't a bid, it was just a quote investigation. Lowest, yes. Was there any appreciable difference between three of them? No, maybe $15, $25 difference. But it seemed to me that if we used Thompson for 3 buildings, why not the 4th one at a price that was just as comparable? Yep.
So that went up, but only because we added a building.
Yes, because it was, right, Litchfield Buildings, that contract was expiring, and we needed to have our be covered by fire inspections for the Litchfield building.
Any other comments? Roll call please.
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
Pam Griner,
Aye.
Brenda Cagle,
Aye.
Val Reagan,
Aye.
Julie True,
Aye.
Rebecca Kern, aye. Judy Strong.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Looking on here to M5, we'd like a motion before discussion with, and Mrs. Cagle's going to give us a report after the motion.
I make a motion to accept the amendment to the district health insurance plan as as presented, I guess.
I second.
Like
Oh.
elected versus us.
Where else will that go? To approve the amendment to district health insurance plan as an additional benefit for the district employees. Okay, I guess I just left that part out. So, and what, I'm sorry, Ms. Reagan, what was?
You want it effective October 1st, because I said, I mean,
This amendment will go into effect on October 1st, whether we say that or not. We are entering into the agreement, but the benefit doesn't start till October 1st.
So as presented, should get us.
Should cover that.
Yeah. A second, please.
I second.
Brenda did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Discussion.
We have a
Should we
presentation
go ahead and
from
read this
Linda.
then?
Oh, yes, let's do
Okay,
that.
let me read this. On September the 9th, we met with the insurance presenter, who was Keith from Crossroads Insurance, and the other committee members, myself, Judy, and Mr. Aldridge, sorry, Mrs. Strong.
The insurance committee met with Keith from Crossroads Insurance to discuss the Obama's Affordable Care Act, which will have an impact on the major medical plan for Creve Coeur schools. According to Keith, Ron Jones from Mutual Medical has developed the Affordable Care Plan, which is also known as ACPE for the Creve Coeur schools. This will be an added benefit to the employees. If we adopt this plan, Keith and Ron will roll out the plan sometime in October 2013. The Affordable Care Plan, also known as ACP, will be an amendment effective October 1st, 2013 to the Creve Coeur Schools Health Plan starting January 1st, 2014. Benefits to the Affordable Care Plan, ACP, are as follows. No employee premium contribution, that's incredible. No deductible, no copay, no coinsurance, also includes prescription drugs, no annual or lifetime dollar limits, no pre-existing, I'm getting the chills, no pre-existing limit provision. This will help lower the claims from being denied. The ACP is designed for individuals whose claim payments are expected to exceed $50,000 or more each year. Each year, if the individual qualifies, the individual may remain in the ACP, or the individual can elect to come out of, can elect to come back again, can elect to come back on our group major medical plan at any time. The ACP cost to the employee is $0. The cost to the district is $63 per employee. The district will have to pay this fee regardless if we adopt or not. While not everyone may qualify, everyone in the group benefits because of reduced, everyone in the group benefits, okay? Because of the reduced claims that affect employee contributions. Starting January 1st, 2014, and each month thereafter, the qualified individual can elect to enroll in the ACP by the 15th of each month, to be effective the following month on the 1st of the month.
I'm gonna go back to school and get a teaching degree.
Huge.
Well, that's only, isn't this the government plan? that-
Yes, but
It's switching over from our plan to the government plan that you're eligible to do, even as anyone's
Yeah.
eligible to do that.
But ours is based on the fact that we have a $50,000 like cap, or not cap, but a target that once it hits that, the person that controls the plan will basically talk directly to that employee once they see that it's getting ready to go over, and they'll offer them to go into the ACP. They can elect to do it or not. Our discussion was, I wouldn't do it.
And it's for all staff, the unions.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's only, so I calculate it's about $766 a year per employee if they do go into it, correct?
It's $63 per employee.
Per year.
A month, oh, a year?
Per year.
I thought that was a month.
No, you said per month, I believe.
I thought it was
No,
a
she
month.
didn't say, she just said $63
per employee.
Yeah, she didn't say,
Period.
yeah.
But that,
I thought it was
But
just
that-
$1,000 thing that you went in there. But I thought there was around $1,000 an employer had to pay if their employee went on that plan.
that's not the way that
Not
Mr.
that we,
Oh, that's probably, I was probably
We're told
missing
about
it.
so, but you know, this is, we had the teachers union representative there, and this is an added benefit to them. And sometime in October, they're actually gonna roll this out and talk to both unions about it, so.
And it's also a benefit to the district
It is, it's
because
supposed to, in the long run, save us money.
where our costs will not rise if we have a huge claim.
Well, the $50,000 mark, that's where this actually triggers. So this plan, as it's called, doesn't do anything unless we have somebody who is a catastrophic, illnesses, all right? And once someone starts approaching that amount, our mutual medical, who's the third-party administrator, they trigger these things, and as they see diagnosis codes that, you know, okay, prostate cancer, all right? If they get that code, they automatically know that that's gonna be, you know, $500,000 on up. So what they do is they tell, like Ms. Reagan said, they sit down with the individual employee and say, you know, here's what the likelihood of this illness means to you as far as your insurance goes. You will be better off if you leave Creve Coeur Major Medical Plan and go on to the Health Plan Exchange, the government plan, and purchase insurance out there, all right? And if they do that, then all of these extras kick in. No premium contributions, no deductibles, no copays, all of those things, because that is that's what the medical health exchange is all about. And we were told $63 per employee was what the cost for this plan is. Oh, the Obama, the medical, Affordable Health Care Act, yes, thank you. The Affordable Health Care, all employers have to either provide something like this, and it's $63 for us, or if they're not providing, then they have other fees that they have to pay, you know, and there are fines if you don't, and or you can pay a fine and not give health insurance. There's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of moving parts in this thing, and by no means am I an expert, but that's what we were told with $63 per employee for the year to purchase this insurance, because it's insurance that we are purchasing. All right, this plan for us is insurance. We have what we pay as our health benefit, all right? That's what we do ourselves. We have reinsurance that we purchase, so when someone gets up to a certain amount, then that triggers in, and that's our cutoff, and this insurance that we buy then covers that employee, all right? This is now another layer of that, which is hopefully, well, the way Mr. Jones explained it, hopefully will lower the reinsurance premium, because we won't make any claims to the reinsurance, because we are sending these people to the health exchange.
Right.
So hopefully that will reduce our costs over the long run, not immediately. All right, their premiums aren't going to reduce. You know, they're still going to have their annual increases, but because our premium will go down because we're not making claims. That's the whole concept here. They say it's going to work. I don't believe it, but they say it's going to work. And if this all is contingent upon what happens in Washington. So we could do all of this. Yeah, we could do all of this in January 1. There not be anything out there. So
I'll just FYI, St. Francis Hospital is $88 million in the hole for giving away health care right now. So I can't wait till 2014 because we're going to give away even more. Yeah.
Well, on this plan also, through the ACP.
I need to amend my budget that you just adopted. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's no height or weight restrictions, no health.
There's no pre-existing
No pre-existing.
anything.
Because you can on Obamacare.
Yeah, because everybody gets insurance.
Sorry, Affordable Care Act is a new thing that you cannot, pre-existing.
If you didn't know about it,
It's
there's your
all
info.
free.
And I believe our union that was present, they were satisfied that it wasn't a must, you have to do it. It was a choice, you want to do it. So, you're not taking away,
Some companies are saying you have to do it.
really.
Yes.
And this was definitely a choice, but the choice has to be made by the 15th
For
in
the
order for
following
it to
month.
be effective the first of the following month.
Okay, and we have different regulations because we are self-insured. You know, other employers are saying you have to do it because they're paying insurance premiums instead of we're self-insured. So that puts us in a whole different category. So, yeah, I don't know, it looks fantastic on paper.
That's great. It does, so.
Thank you, Mrs. Cago. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
Pam Griner,
Aye.
Brenda Cagle, Valerie Reagan, Julie Troop,
Aye.
Rebecca Kern, aye, Judy Strong.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Going on to F6, we need a motion, please.
I make a motion to approve the district application for recognition of public schools.
Second.
Well, this is, every year, all Illinois public schools must apply to the State Board of Education to be recognized as a public school, which means that you are answering the questions that are asked of you by the state board, and it goes to staff qualifications, support services, our paraprofessionals all trained, and, is there school governance, do we have rules, do we have certain policies in place and the like. And as you can see, we answered affirmatively to that, all of those questions for the both schools. The application submission, I think in here says that it has to be submitted by September 30th, but I've received a communication from the Regional Office of Education that's saying that that's been delayed because of computer problems and their technology. They can't keep up with all of their mandates. So, we will submit this as soon as the computer lines are open, and we will get this submitted.
So it's not currently on this IRIS?
No, it is not.
States that
Yeah,
it is, but
even though I put,
it's not.
yeah, that letter's in there, but I just received on Friday another communication.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
Pam Griner,
Aye.
Brenda Cagle, Valerie Reagan, Julie Troop,
Aye.
Rebecca Kern, aye, Judy Strong.
Yes.
Motion carries.
F7, motion, please.
I make a motion to approve the first reading of recommended bus policies. I have to go through each number. Jeez, I don't have them separately written down, sorry.
They're on this.
Are they over here?
Yeah.
They are on page 3. The last one.
4.140, 5.260, 5.330, 6.190, 6.240, 8.25, 6.170, 6.170 AP1, 6.170 AP1-E2, E1, sorry. 6.170 AP1-E2. 6.170 AP2 and 6.170 AP3 as presented.
I second.
These are the press policies that were the subject of our committee of the whole meeting on September 3rd. At that time, we had discussion and review. I took back all of the policies and put all of the corrections, revisions, and other actions that we wanted to take to change the policies, put them in there. So I'm presenting these for the first reading.
We talked about that at our last committee of the whole meeting. Is there any other discussions?
I have a question. Policy 5.330 is our old policy, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So we don't need to do a first reading on it. It's already in place. We did not change anything on it, correct?
No, ma'am.
It needs to be taken off. Motion I would approve.
Well, or we could leave it in there and say reviewed, or we can take it out. Your pleasure. I can do it either way.
It does have a new revision made on it.
Review, not a revision, it's a review. Right, we're not, you decided not to change anything.
But we've reviewed it and made that decision, so it should be approved, right?
Right.
Right. That's what
I
she's
said
saying.
we leave it in, so that,
Versus the first reading.
right.
No, I think
No, I'm
Pam
saying
said
that-
we
Pam
should
said
take
we
it
should
out.
take it
It's
out.
not a first reading, nothing's changed on it.
Right.
In the
That's what she
past,
said,
I mean,
take it
I see
out.
what he's saying, I don't care how you do it, but
But if we take it out, then it won't have a new date on it, and it'll look like it hasn't been,
Reviewed
Reviewed
since
and-
1995.
yeah. I would like it left in so it has a new date, so then in 3 years, you don't have to go back and do it again. Maybe, if you're just going through policies. Because some of them look like they haven't been touched.
that's wise,
Then-
because when you see it older, when you know there's a reason you don't change it.
Exactly.
But if
Why
it,
not put
if,
reviewed on it?
Yeah,
you
that's what I
can't,
would
yeah.
suggest,
That's
is
why
we would add
yeah,
that,
we
reviewed
can
at
add
the bottom.
But I would not approve it as a first reading.
Right.
Okay?
I mean, that's just my opinion. But I would put reviewed because, like Mrs. Kern said, that way you can look at the back and you can see that the board did at least go over it.
right.
So this wasn't discussed at the committee of the whole meeting?
Yes, it was, we decided to keep the old policy instead of taking the new one that came down from press, because all of this is in the
Okay,
contract.
but you didn't discuss not using it as a first reading then?
No.
No, because I assumed it would not be a first reading because nothing changed.
So before we go to an amendment there, is there any other thing that we need to discuss?
I have a question. 6.240 AP is in our packet, but it's not on this list, and I honestly don't remember if we did it or not. In our packet is 6.240 AP, okay?
And we just have 6.240.
No, we have that too. The AP
Right.
wasn't listed,
Okay.
so do you want to add that? It's the very last one in here.
Was it discussed?
Was
Yes.
discussed.
Put it in there because
Then it was just a typo.
But there may be a reason.
It's the one with the field
Well,
trip.
6240 policy was discussed, and this is the AP for that policy. And,
First and second row.
I thought there was something to do with the 100-mile,
Yeah.
We put that in the,
It
it was in the policy, right?
And
Right.
I honestly don't remember what we discussed. Do you remember discussing?
Have mine.
I guess I'm a little confused, because I thought we didn't have to approve APs. I thought we only had to approve policies.
You're correct.
Hmm?
You are correct.
So why are APs even in here?
We approve them, but not do first reading of.
But since we do them, we talk about them, they're all here, I make revisions, first reading or not, they're here, they're for public inspection, because they don't get out into the public very often. Okay, what we did is we revised 6240 AP, right? There was a revision to 6240 AP. It was not listed here in the motion, 6240 AP. We made a change and added the word numbers of miles, number of miles. The proposal must specify, describe each of the following. And it says numbers of miles because we have that in the policy itself. So, with that revision, it was put into our packet because we talked about it when we revised it. And it was inadvertently left off of to be approved as first reading of press policies. And having them in here, policies, administrative policies, or administrative procedures, having them in there or not as first reading, second reading, approval, I mean, it's just all. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but
It's
it,
okay if you do it.
yeah, it's overkill, but I'd rather kill things more than once and move on.
Okay, so I need to make an amendment to the
And I'm sorry about
motion.
that being
But-
left off.
But we better see if there's anything else first, so
Okay.
we don't amend it more than one. Anybody else? Another one? Are we okay? All right, this is true.
Actually, it was nice catch.
And we are removing
I'm making
5330.
an amendment to remove 5.30 and add 6.240 AP.
I second.
I thought we were gonna just
Yeah.
make a comment that of being reviewed on the 5.330, so that the
You
date.
can't approve it as a first reading if you're just
No,
going to
review.
review it. So you have to
Right.
take it out, and
Because
then
this
you're gonna
is
have
first
to approve
reading.
it as a
Can you
review
put the
or
rest
whatever.
It says first reading, so that because this was a review, they don't want it to be as a review, so you remove it, so because it talks about first reading, because we're not first reading it, because it's an old policy and we're reviewed, so we will bring that up later as a review.
Okay, because I know Mrs. Kern was concerned that we have a new date on it, and I
Yes.
would agree with
No,
that
I'm gonna make
also.
another motion after this to approve it as reviewed. But we pulled it from the first reading because it's not a first reading. I got it. We're good. Let's go.
Roll call.
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
Pam Griner,
Aye.
Brenda Cagle,
Aye.
Valerie Reagan,
Aye.
Julie Troop,
Abstain. Sorry, I wasn't at the committee meeting.
Rebecca Kern, aye, Judy Strong.
Yes. Then on to
Nope.
our next motion.
No, yes.
I'm making a motion to approve the policy number 5.330 as reviewed.
I second.
So that would be F8.
Yes. Okay, true, and
This is Kingo.
I know more about
Thank
these
you.
than you guys do.
Cagle, second, thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
Pam Griner,
Aye.
Brenda Cagle,
Aye.
Valerie Reagan,
Aye.
Julie Troop,
I abstain.
Rebecca Kern, aye, Judy Strong.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And date of review. And we will take care of that in the morning.
All right. Out of action items into informational items.
Sure.
We'll give you a moment.
Okay. All right, information. The Illinois State Board of Education Energy Efficiency Grant Reimbursement Letter. You'll see here that the State Board of Education has sent us a letter to reclaim a total of $185,526.04 from the Energy Efficiency Grant that was not spent and the grant expired. You'll see that from our district records that these totals and amounts match up to what the State Board of Education says and has, which is kind of amazing if you ask me, because usually anything that the State Board sends you doesn't really always match up to what you have. So it's kind of amazing that this did. And the money must be returned to the Capital Development Board, not to the State Board of Education. I have been in conversations and negotiations with the Illinois State Board of Education as a grant administrator and the Illinois Capital Development Board as the appropriating agency, trying to determine if we have to send this money back as they want, or if we're able to keep it and reapply for the grant using other funds from a different grant that I've been investigating. And if we're able to use other grant money for our local share to pay for these local funds, if we could do that, why do we have to send the money back? Okay. So, in conversations with the individuals there, Deborah Vespa and Gus Beneke, the Illinois Capital Development Board has no problem. They don't care where the money comes from, your local share. You can hold a bingo or you know, have a bake sale to get your money. They don't care. So using another grant to get our matching dollars is acceptable. All right. What's happening now is the State Board of Education is trying to determine whether we can keep the money or whether we have to send the money back to them, go through all of the process of resubmitting the grant again with the same paperwork, resubmit it again just to get the same money back. Right? Now, I'm hoping they go for it, but I can't guarantee that. Because with the Illinois Energy Now grant through the state county commissioners' offices, Illinois Now money, Greener Illinois, is paying about 75% of your local share of your projects. All right. So if I can get 75% of our local share, which is 50% of the grant, we would be paying 25% for this work to be done. If the State Board of Education goes for it and allows us to keep the money, then I'll plow on full steam to get the Illinois One grant, or the Illinois Energy Now grant. And in talking to those people, it's a grant that is not well publicized and underutilized. So there's a high possibility of acceptance. But you never know. And right now, the letter says we have to return this money 30 days from the date of the letter, September 9th. So October 8th or October 9th or whatever it might be, State Board of Education wants to make sure that we have a check to the Capital Development Board, or at least postmarked so that we can show that we sent it. I have talked to them, and they are going to, because of all the things that I'm doing with them, they're going to reissue another letter, giving us another 30 days to see if I can pull off this grant thing. And if not, at the end of 30 days, they'll come knocking for their money, and I should have an answer by then, whether or not this is gonna work, and we can get the money. So, because when you look through everything that's on here, this is all stuff that's needed. The main gas valve at the meter is not properly painted or marked with signage, face brick, you know, these, oh, I'm sorry, that's not it. That's not the grant, the energy efficiency grant. Yeah, that's the maintenance grant, my apologies. But when you look through the energy efficiency grant, all of those projects are still needed. It was just determined, it's my understanding, it was just determined that it wasn't a priority for the local share amount. So if I'm able to get 75%, I bring that to the board. You guys decide if you want to go forward or not. And you do? Maybe.
All that's left is lighting, wasn't it?
There's electrical and, yeah, electrical stuff in there. So what I'm hoping is I can get electric down to the end. Yeah. I don't know. You know, I'm just trying to, and working with the state board and the capital development board, you know, that's not a walk in the park or a picnic by any means, but they've at least given me another 30 days to look into it. So, and they are issuing a new letter, so we'll have a new letter in a couple days saying you got 30 days. You know, and then I figure they're just like any other repossession company that I've ever dealt with, and they'll give us another 30 days and another 30 days. They don't need the money. They don't really. Yeah. Yeah, the state, they don't need the money. No, actually the guy from the Capital Development Board said, you know, honestly, you resubmit the grant and we'll turn around and send the money right back to you in a matter of weeks if your grant is approved.
At that point, could we change it?
Yeah, because it's a resubmission of a new grant.
There's a lot of things we need versus, I think, the lighting.
I do too.
Well,
Not
That's-
electrical, though, as you have checked out.
well, no, I haven't checked out. It has to be within the Illinois Energy Now program. So they've got their restrictions and their requirements. So we'd be playing by their rules and the capital development rules. So it's, you're just gonna have to see. So anyway, we're not paying it. I told them no, we're not paying it.
All right.
They gave me 30 days.
Don't answer the phone.
Yeah, caller ID, yeah.
Thank you for your
I'm
work.
sorry. Okay, maintenance grant work. The next one is I met with the district architect to discuss the work required under the grant and the work that is above and beyond the list, but still high priority, the work that is due under the life safety survey, and the work needed due to disrepair. I said, look, first review the current documents to determine the needed work under the grant so that we can move this thing forward and use our $50,000 local money, the state's $50,000 money that they've already paid to us, and let's get some of this stuff done. So the district architect has all of the documents, and he's going to be bringing me a list with the priorities to determine where best to use this grant, maintenance grant money. So, because I really don't know.
Who's the architect now?
Larry Wickheisel, which is Kenyon and Associates. And next is the water issue. All right, 850,000 gallons of water at Homewood. You can see from 722 to 821, 850,000, 240 gallons. I thought we were gonna have a bill for about $10,000. Luckily, it was only about $289. So I thought, hey, 85,000 gallons of water for 200, 300 bucks. I got a couple of swimming pools we can fill. So, you know, it wasn't as bad as I thought, but it's still obviously a problem. And, you know, once we investigated it, there is no leak. The water department has been out there, you know, for what it's worth. I've been out there, Stan Engel has been out there, Toby, help me with the last name. Grove has been over there, and the best that any of us can figure is that you got old toilets, and it's just going down the drain. But, you know, it's just leaking. You know, the flappers don't seal. They don't set right because they're not the right kind for the old toilets. So, as you can see, going across, here's a year's worth of service for the water usage by building, and that's the information. I don't know how to fix the problem over at Homewood.
So we'll need to have further
Discussion.
discussion.
Yeah. Written communication?
What if we, well, I'm just throwing out an idea. Is it really needed, like, do we have a requirement? of
Toilets?
Well, yes, I realize
I
toilets
thought
are
about
needed.
turning them off, yes.
But I'm wondering if you really need however many toilets that are down there, or can you limit it to 3 toilets?
Yeah,
or-
pull some out, plug it.
Or can you
Turn
turn
those
them
bad
off
boys
at night?
off.
Well, we don't have full-time janitorial service over there, so I don't know if that's a possibility. But, yes, I brought,
It's running all night.
I know.
I mean,
I
just-
suppose I can send a night custodian over there to turn them on.
White House is holding 250.
But then we'd have somebody in the morning come back and turn them on before the kids got there.
Yeah, we're paying somebody to do
And then
that
how-
instead of water.
The
How
staff
many
at the
toilets?
school can't do it? I mean,
We rent it.
there isn't like a main shut off, they can't just flip the
No.
switch?
No, you'd have to go and individually turn off each toilet. Otherwise, you turn off the water everywhere, and then you got pressure issues and
Okay.
water fountains.
Alright,
It wouldn't be pretty. It's a great thought.
I'm just wondering if we just really need that many.
I thought that myself, and when I broached that topic as I was in the middle of frustrations with the building representative for Homewood, I did not get kindly comments back.
Yeah, well,
But
it's not their building, it's ours.
I understand.
Just put it in.
Lorna Shorewood from the Regional Office of Education.
I agree with this first. I mean, if you only have like 20 kids, so they,
Yeah, I mean, how many kids you got, how many times, you know what I mean? I mean, how many kids you got in this building,
Got it.
and you're using a certain amount of toilets? If you got the same amount of toilets down there for 20 kids, I'm sorry, but you can have 2, and you can share.
And are they using it upstairs?
Yeah.
During the whole day?
Yeah, they are in the whole building.
They're in the whole building, yeah.
Okay.
But
I can check with the
still.
Regional Office of Education's, the facilities individual to see what the requirement is for number of working toilets per capita in the building, and see what they say. That they do fluctuate. Their attendance goes up and down. So, as long as we're willing.
Is the staff looking at the end of the day and checking them to see if they're running where they can move it up or
I
anything for us?
really doubt that the regional.
I could go
safety
down there
is
and
gonna
turn
do
some
that.
off and just put a sign on and say out of order.
There you go. They'll probably crawl under them and still use them.
Yeah.
I've seen kids do it.
I would check with the ROE about,
Not fair.
about the requirements for number of facilities for a number of people.
I don't know, just saying.
Written communications, we've had none, that I know of. Superintendent's report got expired. Facilities update, Parkview gym floor and the air conditioning. As I've noted before, there is issues with the air conditioning that we directly relate back to the resurfacing of the gym floor. I have sent the letter to All Red Flooring, making a demand on them repairing or for them to reimburse us for the costs of the repairs. Let's put it that way. And right now, it looks like it'd be about $4,000 or so. We hold the money. I haven't paid them. I've held it. I haven't submitted that to the Board of Education because I've got the leverage. Mr. Allred wants to get paid, he can talk to me about it. So, and he was. They came and they inspected, they had questions, we met at the school, they looked at things, okay. So he needed that letter to turn into his insurance company, so I think he's willing to work with us. LaSalle freezer, I mentioned that already about, we did get it fixed. No, we got it repaired so that it is cooling right now, but there's still issues that were identified 4 or 5 years ago that have been ongoing problems. We've repaired that same freezer now every year for the past 5 years or so. Technology, electricity issues, we've gone over that. Overall condition of the buildings, kind of looked at that with the budget report. Homewood building, as Homewood, as a building, I think it's probably good for the Board of Education to revisit the Homewood building and where you want to go, what the vision is. We are in a contract with the regional office for another year, so anything that we start talking about now would not take place until 2015, the summer. Field trips. We are, last year there were field trips, and then there was a moratorium put on field trips in the spring because of the budget for the transportation. It was too much, and it was going, you're spending too much money in transportation. So field trips were just kind of cut out, but not all of them. Some field trips were taken, some were not taken, and it's my understanding that there was real confusion. So I'm starting to get those requests now. So I want clear direction from the Board of Education as to whether or not field trips are important and whether or not you want to pay for them, because the budget that I put in, the proposed budget, is based on last year's numbers, which did not have enough money to cover the field trips. Okay, you fell short. Now, you ended up with a balance, but because you moved money in different areas. But when it comes down to the transportation, you were going to fall short. So that is a discussion. And I am asking for direction from the Board of Education on that issue, because I just don't think that I'm going to make a decision that is I don't know how to say it. I don't want to make the decision. I think it's the decision for the Board of Education to determine whether or not this is an area for educational field trips and whether or not you want to approve to spend the money for field trips. Now, I will say field trips, the principals know, and I've expressed that my expectation of field trips are that they should be educational and tied back to the Illinois Learning Standards, and not just because we've done it every year, or because it's a great place to go, or because the kids get a day off, or because, it's spring and we want to be in the flower gardens. No, there needs to be some critical tie to the Illinois Learning Standards. Otherwise, I'm not going to approve the field trip whether you guys say yes or no. I'll say, give me something different. Show me how that's tied to the curriculum. Show me how that's laced into the Illinois Learning Standards. Because that's what field trips are supposed to be, is education.
Well, and I agree with you, and I think where the issues, we ran into issues were those field trips that were, going canoeing out in North Peoria, and the kids coming home sopping wet because they were playing in the water. I'm sorry, they didn't learn anything from that trip. They went canoeing. or
But
going
we-
to wildlife every single year from kindergarten until umpteen year. I mean, I'm sorry, wildlife is nice, it's a neat place to go, but once you've seen that bear pace that fence once, you've seen it 1,000 times. You know, there can be other, more creative ideas as far as educational trips. So I think where the whole field trip thing got confused was people and parents and everybody was expecting these same trips every year, and they got a little irritated because previous administration said, no, this is not an educational trip. You don't need to go. And I agree, they don't need to go.
Yeah.
I believe when we have the discussion, though, on field trips, we probably need to have a list, because from my past memory, every grade doesn't go every year to, the.
Well, I'm
I
just
can run
throwing
down
it out
the
there
list and
as
tell
an
you which grade go
example.
where.
Well, I'd
Kindergarten
like
goes
to
to
get
the farm
the-
park, second
Right.
grade goes to
Right.
the zoo, third
So
grade
it's
goes
not the same
every-
year to the same place is what
It
I'm
would be nice to
stating.
know how much it did actually cost the district, because I asked that question before.
$7
How much
per
are the
month.
field trips costing the district, so we can make an informed decision?
$6.08 per child per month, or no, for renting the bus. No, that is mine. Yeah, it is. It's $6.08 per mile, no matter if you got one kid or 66 kids.
Right.
It's $6.08 per mile to start that bus up over at the barn, take it to St. Louis and bring it back, $6.08 a month.
But in
Loaded or
general-
unloaded.
But in general, how much does it cost the district?
Yeah.
For these
And
field trips?
that's easy information to get.
Well, and that would be potentially something, in my opinion, that could be presented to the PACE group and say, hey, you're raising such and such amount of money, and hey, why don't you pay for some field trips if you really want them?
And I know
Or-
there's a grant that's already been approved, so there are some grants that teachers are applying for field trips too.
And,
Yes.
and by all means, people need to get creative with it, because, you know,
That's good.
we're already deficit spending.
And that's part of it, is that we do. Mr. Jokic has, he wrote a grant, it's fifth grade?
Yes, fifth grade.
Fifth grade, they received grant money for the transportation to go to the Vantes Dome for the environmental
That's
awareness day.
science related, yes.
What's that?
It's science related, it's environmental day.
It's the environmental day. So it was very much tied to the science curriculum, but beyond that, they got their own money to go. So
So
that's an
what-
approved.
So I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So they're tying it, so are they gonna be learning about it in class and then going, and then, or are they just going?
It depends on how much information they give us ahead of time in terms of what's there. It may just be, there's like learning booths when they go there. I think that's, what the majority of it's going to be.
But you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like if they could be taught about it the week prior, and then they go and they get to see it, they're going to make those connections better than if they just go and run around in a circle in a big Bonnie's dome.
And I believe Mrs. Troop, environmental is in curriculum, probably in every grade level. So,
Well, but
We should be
but,
teaching on
you know, the teachers could tie that in to where, you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely, and
I-
that's what we hope to do.
Okay.
Right, and then if it's something that was learned, you know, that was something that was a topic back in October, and they're taking the field trip in March, there just needs to be a refresher. This is where we're going, this is why we're going here. We're talking about these aspects, yes. I very much agree. But field trips need to be fun too, don't get me wrong. Kids ought to be going to fun activities
Well, yeah,
and
they're field trips.
doing those kind of things that are fun, but curriculum related, so.
They're going canoeing in a nasty pond.
I don't know.
Nasty. That's not-
It's not like a board, it's not like a board prove anything, it's just direction. It's a direction, or where do you want administration to go? Because for every one of you that has a strong opinion here, there are these 7 same opinions out in the community. So, But I can get this information and bring it back, and it can be a discussion for a later date. Is that all right? Okay. Parents group meeting, September 19th went well. We have now some head cheerleaders that have been, that were elected at the open meeting for the parents group. It was not advertised, but notified through the alert system. So everybody who had a working number in our system received a notification. If someone did not receive the notification, it's probably they need to call the office and give us a new telephone number or and update that list. So at the parents group meeting, it was, the same expectations were put out to the big group as it was to the smaller group when I spoke with them, that they are their own entity. They are affiliated to the school district by name, but they do not have a connection to us. They're accountable for their finances, for our oversight. We are not a controlling board. We don't tell them what they have to do. We don't approve anything that they do. What they have to do is to run their organization in a respectable manner. If at any time that organization is doing something illegal, immoral, or beyond that, then the Board of Education's recourse is to pull its alliance with that organization and say you're no longer affiliated with the district. But they are on their own. They do their fundraising. Our principals are the conduits from the group to what is going on and what is needed at their schools. It is one unit for the entire district. I want equity, I want fairness, I want to see that everyone is getting along. Don't have to like each other, just need to move forward with a purpose.
What's a good meeting?
I want goals. So there were some expectations put out there, and I'm working with the group to get their own legal entities set up and to get their own identification numbers and all of that. They will have to decide whether or not they want to become a 501c3 corporation through the federal and internal revenue system. They only really need that if they're going after donations above $650. Then organizations, groups, businesses, they want that tax write-off. So that's when they look for and they ask for a 501c3 letter. So unless they have that designation, they should not be saying that they are a tax-exempt organization. They are not. All they will have is they're exempt from paying sales tax in Illinois. But they're not a tax-exempt organization unless they get that from the IRS. And honestly, for the time and effort and cost, it's not really worth it unless they're going to Caterpillar and want $1 million grants. So, that's for them to decide whether or not they want that designation.
Their own FEIN number they will have?
FEIN number, they will be incorporated as a not-for-profit corporation with the state of Illinois, Secretary of State's office, the state of Illinois. They will have reports, they will have 990s that they will have to fill out for the Attorney General's office, which is their financial statements that will have to go to the Illinois Attorney General's office. The state will have oversight over them.
Will they be required to get their own insurance then as well?
Insurance,
Their own liability insurance or anything like that?
if they are doing anything that is outside of the school outside of the school out in the communities, then yeah, if they want to be insured. If they're having activities within our building and on our school property, they're covered under our umbrella liability. Yeah. But if they're doing like pony rides in the park, a kid falls off and breaks their neck, they're on the hook. Not the school district, they. So they may want to, per event, purchase some insurance. That's a
We,
discussion.
at some point, I know the principals are talking with them about what the needs are, but can we maybe do suggestions that our needs are?
Sure, that's what,
Computers and that
that's,
kind of
that's
thing?
what, yeah, that's what we do. We can give suggestions and the things that we would like to see, but we can't force them to do anything. We can't approve their fundraisers. We are not, saying, unless they're selling alcohol or gambling, or something illegal, it's not our job to oversee them.
So there won't be a limit on the number of fundraisers
Right.
then?
Yeah.
The district
It's
always
not up to us. I know the district always limited, that shouldn't have been, when you were doing that, that shouldn't have been.
Well, that's when they were
It's an
under
agreement.
parent club.
It was just an
Yeah, in
agreement.
each building.
It's an agreement. Well, they're their own entity, and they really should, if they wanted to, parent-teacher organization. If they were to join the national organization, parent-teacher organization, or whatever they call themselves now, it is said that they are separate from the school district. They are connected. They're affiliated to, and they use the school district's name, and they're doing things in our name. But the school district has no control over what they do, how they do it. If they're doing something that's illegal, we can pull our affiliation with them and say, you no longer have our affiliation. But no, this Board of Education should not be ruling over the parents. It's not the way it's done.
What about the finances?
Finances. They will provide to us quarterly reports on the finances that will be reconciled with, our bookkeeper, and we will have that kind of oversight. If we see something that is inappropriate, will be brought to their attention, and they will have to deal with it. Whether they go, take legal action, whether they get their status yanked by the Attorney General's office, whatever those recourses are. If there are things that are misappropriated and we see this and you don't feel like you want that to continue, then we pull their affiliation and they're no longer a group. Right? That's what you have. They're not affiliated with us any longer.
To what point though, because there was money sitting in an account that was LaSalle Parent Club. Is that money going to be given to PACE now?
It's my understanding that there is, all that money is, I don't know, is it gone or is it already been purchased? There were things that were purchased at Parkview before the dissolution. You guys have all the records. I guess I have all the records too, and I've given you everything that I've been given. If there's money out there, I don't see it. If you guys have other,
So what you're saying is their money, not the district's money.
right? It's their money, not our money, right? And it's one organization now. So if there was, both groups have kind of merged, and so it is all one.
I believe what you're trying to confirm is the parent-teacher separate ones over a year ago compared to last year's PACE group.
Right,
And
I thought there was money sitting out there somewhere.
I believe that money from 2 years ago is maybe what she's referring to, not from PACE this
Right.
past year.
Right, and Parkview too, because we got all that paperwork.
Right, there
There
was still
was-
being checks written off of those accounts, so there has to be money somewhere.
So I'm just asking where.
At where? At when?
No, PACE is coming now. PACE has been
Without the
really doing a great
parking
job
lot.
fundraising. They went to, one thing they went to this summer was the Chiefs game. They made so much money by selling a tennis ball, I think, or something like that. They're doing just awesome
She's
work.
talking
That was
about
all PACE.
She's talking about the money.
She's
from-
talking about
Okay.
2 years ago.
And
Mrs. McCardle can tell you what the LaSalle Parent Club, the old Parent Club money was spent on, and Mr. Jokish can tell you what the Parkview.
The question is it now zero?
It's
Is
zero.
that
Those accounts.
I
are
can't,
closed.
I'm not finding any money anywhere. You guys have what I have, and I didn't find anything. So if you have evidence and documentation that there is something out there, please give it to me, and we will find out and straighten it out. But by golly, I can't find anything that's some hidden accounts or Swiss banks or nothing, really. I mean, I'm not trying to make light of it, but I'm saying that over the past year, there's been so much brought out on all of this that, I have a credenza full of all of this materials, and I have receipts, and I have explanations, and I have, everything, and I have given you guys, the Board of Education, everything.
I believe that PACE has given us reports though. This past year, didn't PACE give us
Yes,
reports?
they did, and it was very complete.
Yes, okay, so
They
that's
showed
what we're
everything
talking
in
about
the
now.
expenditure.
Everything else was zeroed. Unless,
The money's
that's
from
different if you
before
want to
that-
do an inquiry.
It was money that was from before that there would still be checks taken out of last year, when
Right.
everyone thought, I think, that account had been
Frozen.
frozen.
I thought it was just closed.
Okay.
And what's your new phrase? The past
That's
is?
his.
The
But
future.
if that money's sitting
And-
out there, then it needs to be dealt
Yeah.
with. And if
Right.
it's
That's
not,
what
then
she's
it's not.
asking.
Okay, I can't make it any more plainer that I don't have any kind of documentation that there shows that there is money out there.
Right.
Please, if you know it is, you find it, you let me know. But, I've had enough stress over all of this. Have you guys seen President Obama from when he was elected to now? Ever notice how great he is? All right?
It's coming, Shane. You already had
Yeah,
milestones.
okay, but I'm not getting paid like him. I don't get all of the vacations he gets. So, no, but I guess what I'm saying is that at some point, we just have to say, the past is, and the future can be. Nobody's stolen any money. Nobody's hiding any money. Can we move forward? And if you don't want to, I can't make you.
Well, I'm not saying that anybody stole anything. I was
Okay.
just saying, if there was an allotment that the district had of parent club funding, which is what my understanding from the audience was, that it had been put in a district account
was the
and it was
motion.
being held for the parent club. If that's the case, then we need to give it back to a parent club.
But I believe then it was whiteboards purchase, whatever that owed parents,
Everything was spent.
yes, everything was spent. It was all spent.
So
Okay, moving
that's
on.
all I can tell you, is that I can't find it. Our membership status we received, and you can see your certificate there. You are now active members of the Creve Coeur School District. 76 is an active member of the Illinois Association of School Boards, which means that your division meeting is on Thursday in Eureka School District. So dinner is at 6 and then program. Okay, so I hope to see everyone there. All right, poor Mr. Jokish and Mrs. McCardle. Mrs. McCardle's not, her voice is not doing well tonight. She's not going to give us any kind of information, but Mr. Jokish is.
Good evening. I'm going to speak on behalf of Mrs. McCardle about the summary for implementation of student growth. We attended a conference last Monday dealing with this. As we talked about new state reforms and mandates that are required, this is another one. Basically, in summary, starting in the year, at the beginning of the 2016 school year, it's a requirement that teacher evaluations include 2 forms of student growth in there. And this is mandatory. This is required by PARE, which is the Performance Evaluation Reform Act. And the conference that we went to, mainly some of the things we came away from, the whole purpose of this, I think it's important to remember that the student growth model keeps the focus on students, and that's a good thing. That's why teachers teach, because student performance, that's the whole purpose. It's why we teach. We want to make students better today than they were yesterday. And the student growth evaluation model ties in with the district theme of student-focused, results-driven. Another key that we came away with is this is a slow process. It's gonna be a change, it's gonna be a change in mindset. I know anytime you throw something new on, there's gonna be some hesitation, concerns about it. And it's just a slow process. This is the very beginning stage, the early stage, the planning stage of it. And it's just key that collaboration is important between administrators, teachers, and we want teachers to understand that they're doing a great job with teaching. They're gonna see growth. Their students are gonna perform, and they should want to bring that to other people's attention, to brag about it, to show it off. Here's what my kids are doing. This is a good thing. Where we were going in terms of the timeline. Next year, the 2014-2015 school year, we're going to form a student growth committee. This is going to be an informal committee where we begin the planning process of how exactly we're going to do this, what this is going to look like. Let's be a combination of teachers and administrators working together to plan and discuss para-implementation. And I just kind of put as a side note on there that the 2014-2015 school year is when the PARC, which is an acronym for Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers, that's the new ISAT test. We'll be taking that twice, and they're saying that it's all going to be computer-based. Still anxious to see what this looks like, because we're going to be taking the PARC test twice a year. But that just kind of ties in with the new para laws. So that's 2014-2015. The 2015-2016 school year, the para joint committee will become more of a formal committee. And this will replace the student growth committee. This is where we begin a no-stakes implementation. In other words, we'll be beginning the implementation of the student growth process, but there's no stakes. In other words, it will not be directly tied to teachers' evaluations. We're giving it 1 year for everybody to get used to what this process is like. And this just helps everybody get acclimated to the process. Then the following year, 2016-2017, this is where full implementation of student growth as required by para. Assessments for growth will count as 30% in teacher evaluations. At the bottom of this page here, you see a flow chart. This is kind of the ideal of what they're looking at for this para law, and this just ties in with what we do with MAP testing already, where we take the MAP test for reading, language arts, and math 3 times a year. And we just completed the first phase of this. Like last Monday, I think was the last day that we finished this. And that's assessment A. And basically, once we get that data, teachers begin analyzing that data, looking for students' strengths and weaknesses, so they can kind of differentiate what they're teaching to best meet student needs. So basically, you take the test, you analyze the data, you begin planning, and then you teach that information. Then you go through the whole process again. We take the MAP test in January. That's the second assessment, assessment B. Again, you analyze the data, you look for student strengths and weaknesses, figure out how you can differentiate your instruction. You teach that, then you get the final assessment, which would be your summative assessment. And that's just with the MAP test. That's just a current assessment that we use that can be applied to this. So for how we get there, again, growth is the key. That's the focus of this, student growth. Growth is a change in student understanding over time. It's the difference between a student's baseline performance beginning of the year and the student's subsequent performance middle or end of the year. So basically, you're looking at 2 performances over a period of time. That's that's the requirement for this. And in the back of this, there's just a list of what the different types of assessments are. Each educator has to have 2 types of assessments. One is a type 1 or type 2 assessment, which is type 1 is a reliable assessment that measures a certain group or subset of students in the same manner with the same potential. Assessment items is scored by a non-district entity and is administered either statewide or beyond Illinois. Example, MAP testing, which is what we already do. Type 2 assessment is any assessment developed or adopted and approved for use by the school district and used on a district-wide basis by all teachers in a given grade or subject area. This is something put together by the district, such as a curriculum test. And then your type 3 assessment would be any assessment that is rigorous, that is aligned to the course's curriculum, and that the qualified evaluator and teacher determined measures student learning in that course. Example, individual assessments created and aligned to standards within the district. An example of this could be a portfolio. So some of these are kind of simple, like with the reading and math, we already at least have the type 1 in place. Where this gets tricky, what we'll have to look at is how you assess physical education, how you assess social studies and science, those other areas, how to have those two different forms of assessments. And so that's what the committee will have to look at, and so there will be a process involved. Ms. McCardle, anything you'd like to add?
You did awesome.
Questions about this?
What this is showing, thank you, Mr. Jokic, great overview and summary of all of that. We spent a day together with some of the teachers, the administrators, at this workshop on student growth, because it will be a part of the teacher's overall assessment. It's something that, like they say, you know, it doesn't really, full implementation is not until 2016, but we have to start now. We have to start now. And like Mr. Joker said, everything's going to computer-based. The park, you know, it won't be the ISATs anymore. It's going to be this park test. We were chosen to do some beta testing for the park assessments, 5th grade math and English language arts. Is that right?
5th grade math, 7th grade English language arts.
7th grade, sorry, 7th grade English language arts. So the State Board of Education chose us as one of the field testing sites, and we thought it was a great opportunity. So we went ahead and took it so that we could get, let's see what what this thing's going to be like. You know, this is their, you know, their concept test. It's not going to be what the final measures are like, but it's going to tell us where they're going for the state tests coming up. But it's all going to be, you know, technology driven. So, you know, if we're going to assess our teachers on this stuff, we've got to be able to assess the students on this stuff, and we've got to have the technology to do it. We've got to have the time, and, you know, we have to have the knowledge as a school district on what to do so that our kids are succeeding. So, student focused, results driven, that's where we want to go. And this is one of the ways we're going to get there. So, thank you, Mr. Joker.
We need a motion to enter into closed session.
I make a motion that we enter into the closed session. Do I have to list everything?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we enter into closed sessions for appointment, employment, performance, termination of personnel at 8:12 p.m.
I second it.
Right, roll call.
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
Pam Griner,
Aye.
Brenda Cagle,
Aye.
Valerie Reagan, Julie Troop,
Aye.
Becca Kern, aye, Judy Stark.
Yes, we'll take a 10-minute break. Motion to resume regular session, please.
Make a motion that we resume regular session at 9:07 p.m.
Second.
Oh, I'm
Roll call, please.
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
Pam Griner,
Aye.
Brenda Cagle,
Aye.
Valerie Reagan, Julie Troop,
Aye.
Rebecca Kern, aye, Judy Strong.
Yes.
Motion carried.
On to K1, we need a motion, please.
I make a motion to accept the resignation of Gary Grant as bus maintenance supervisor effective October 1st, 2013 with regrets.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
Pam Griner,
Aye.
Brenda Cagle,
Aye.
Val Reagan,
Aye.
Julie Troop,
Aye.
Rebecca Kern, aye, Judy Strong.
Yes.
Motion carried.
On to K2, I need a motion, please.
I make a motion to employ Zachary Seals as technology cooperative and subject to for 5 days per week, 3 hours per day during the 2013-2014 school year.
Second. Roll call, please.
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
Pam Griner,
Aye.
Brenda Cagle,
Aye.
Val Reagan,
Abstain.
Julie Troop,
No.
Rebecca Kern, aye. Judy Strong.
Yes.
Motion carried.
On to K3, please.
Make a motion to add Jeannie Mylan, is that his name? And Andrew Lutz to the substitute teacher list.
Second.
I'm sorry.
It don't matter.
Ms. Reagan.
Roll call, please.
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
Pam Griner,
Aye.
Brenda Cagle,
Aye.
Val Reagan,
Aye.
Julie Troop,
Aye.
Rebecca Kern, aye. Judy Strong.
Yes.
Motion carried.
K4, please, motion.
Make a motion to add Jamie Simpson to the substitute clerk list.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Linda Bailey,
No.
Pam Griner,
Aye.
Brenda Cagle,
Aye.
Val Reagan,
Aye.
Julie Troop,
Aye.
Rebecca Kern, aye. Judy Strong.
Yes.
Motion carried.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn this meeting at 9:10 p.m.
A second.
Roll call, please.
Linda Bailey, Pam Griner, Brenda Cagle, Val Reagan, Julie Troop,
Aye.
Becky Kern, aye. Judy Strong.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate it. All right. You got it. Okay, just